Well, good morning, everybody. Thought I'd do a quick, very quick, cover a couple of things very, very quick. First of all, although Ken Kratz has blocked me on Twitter, he still likes to send messages to me via my YouTube channel. But of course, he comments under the name of Charles Darwin. And I'll leave the link to a video which I posted last week. It's a short clip of a video from Rob Bellin of Hammett Bellin Lawyers. Rob Bellin was an analyst during the Steven Avery trial and told me about these videos. And in one of them, we hear Dean Strang pointing out that, Dean is not so naive as to think that either Lenk or Colburn were going to happily, on the witness stand, admit to having planted anything. The blood in the RAV4, where did it come from? We don't know. It needs to be tested. Did it come from the blood vial? The special agent, Mark Lebeau, of course, apparently tested it, but as Dr. Silkman on one of the Rubber Ducky videos has quite rightly pointed out, we don't know what the detection limit of the EDTA was. And that's the most likely scenario as to why EDTA wasn't detected, of course, if the source was the blood vial. And of course, Dean and Jerry were very keen on the blood vial. Of course, Steve has always pointed out that, of course, he bled on the Thursday night, having hooked up a trailer. Went to the sink, left a lot of blood in the sink. Next morning, notices the smell of cigarettes, which is odd, and also the fact that the blood in the sink has been completely cleared up. And of course, one of the ways that you can re-liquefied, even solidified blood. It's interesting, isn't it, that we've got blood flakes, but you can re-liquefy blood simply by using distilled water. For me, the big question is, not where did the blood come from? We don't know that yet. We can only speculate. Zellner needs to get hold of all the evidence in order to test it further. But what we do know is what a crime scene would look like had Stephen, from a bleeding finger, gotten into Teresa's car and driven it. We know where the blood should be. And compare that with if you were framing somebody and you'd got some drops of blood, what would you do with those drops of blood? Where would you put them? For me, it's quite clear. The crime scene inside the RAV4 is not a crime scene, it is a frame-up scene. I think during testimony, both Dean Strang and Jerry Buting did question Nick Stolke about how the blood got there, but only in cross-examination. And I think the same with John Ertle, pointing out that, if you were actively bleeding, should you not bleed in a lot of other places? Interesting, of course, isn't it, that they knew that the battery had been disconnected because the car wouldn't start. Well, clearly, whoever parked it at the Avery salvage yard on that ridge, clearly whoever parked it has since then got under the bonnet and disconnected the battery. So why wasn't a DNA test? Why wasn't the engine compartment tested for DNA? Why did we have to wait for 4 months before Brendan? They managed to persuade Brendan to agree to the fact that Stephen had gone under the bonnet, or the Americans call it the hood, so let's call it the hood. Why wait all those months to test for DNA, and only for DNA? Why were there no Steve Stephen Avery, fingerprints found. Lots and lots of questions to ask there. As I say, the source of the blood is not, for me, as big as why is it only in the places where it is. You know, if you're looking at a genuine crime scene, you're looking at least 12 places where you would expect to find blood. None on the steering wheel, none on the gear shift. Just doesn't make sense. None on the door handle, none on the bonnet release inside. None in the engine compartment. Maybe by then he'd stopped bleeding. Maybe that's why there were blood flakes. But why only DNA on the? Why only test for DNA on the hood latch and wait 4 months, 5 months to do that? So as I say, lots of questions. As you know, Millbilly has been frantically putting out videos of the phone conversations between Steve and various people. And so the good news is that 3 o'clock Central Time, that's 9 o'clock UK time, Millbilly has agreed to join me yet again for another chat about those. And fingers crossed, I've got some pretty exciting news about hopefully a guest, possibly next week, to do with the recently released Netflix documentary, The Confession Killer. If all comes to fruition, then that would be absolutely brilliant. So anyway, catch you at, as I say, 9 o'clock UK time. That'll be 3 o'clock Central Time. If I get my maths right, of course, that would be 4 o'clock Eastern Time. And if you live on the West Coast, Pacific Time, that'll be 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so hopefully catch up with a few of you then. Anyway, catch you later. Bye for now.